Hi guys, I'm doing a different kind of video today because, well, I have kind of I don't know what's happened. I have like I don't know if it's a tooth infection or something crazy going on here. I don't know, but my jaw and throat is kind of sore, and also I got this device recently that I wanted to show you guys because it's pretty good. And yeah, I don't have that much to do today, so I thought I'd just do like a kind of maybe boring but kind of quiet video. So if that doesn't sound appealing to you, then I would just turn off now, because there's not a particular point to this video really. I'm just going to be kind of talking about whatever, and about this device I've got. And yeah, so if a boring video is not appealing to you, then yeah. If a boring video is not appealing to you, what is a strange thing to say. Yeah, if you don't like horrible food, then don't eat what I'm about to serve you. Yeah. So I got this device recently, the Convector XL. I was using a Vape B, which is much smaller. I have it over there. I don't want to reach over and get it, but it was about half the size of this, and the bowl is actually like a quarter of the size. And I think for normal weed, the Vape B would be fine, but I'm not using it for normal weed. I'm using it for CBD flower, and I think that with CBD flower, like, it doesn't do much, obviously, you know. It doesn't really, sometimes it feels like it doesn't do anything. So I was sort of feeling a bit fed up of like packing bowls over and over again. So I would have to have like 4 or 5 of those to feel I'd even really had anything. And sometimes I would want to have like way more than that. I'd want to have the equivalent of what would be like 20 bowls in the Vape. And I just couldn't sit there doing that, burning it over and over again. Anyway, these are, well, I guess this is a convection vape. Maybe that's an induction vape. I don't know. I'm not hugely up on all of it. But basically, they don't have any internal heating components. They're just like quite amazingly well designed, really. It has like, I don't know where you can see that, or even where the camera is. It has a like a chamber here, and you put your weed or whatever into there, and you burn it with a lighter, or you can use like an electric heater, and then yeah, it vaporizes it. And I've been doing it a lot recently because just because I have a lot of physical stress, like a lot, you know, and it's been, well, for a long time it's concerned me, you know. I've felt it's not healthy, but since I'm not sober, but I'm kind of more or less sober, you know. I don't drink, and I don't smoke weed, and I don't do like hard drugs really. So I'm basically like 90% sober. And I found that when you are sober, especially if you've spent your life, you know, using drugs as a way of kind of, I wouldn't say avoiding your problems, but at least in the short term making you feel better about them, it's kind of weird to have to feel your emotions all the time, and to sometimes not feel like you're in control of them. Because if you can't easily control your emotions through like healthy means, then drugs can become an easy way of doing that. because you choose. The dog is here, by the way, if you can hear her like sort of snoring. I hope she won't start barking at any point during this video. If she does, I'll probably like dip the sound in post. Yeah, so like you can, I think for me that was one of the main appeals of doing drugs, was that I was like kind of like a scientist, like a mad scientist, like experimenting with my own brain, and not experimenting in a way of like I wanted to find out wacky stuff and create crazy mental states, but more like how can I make myself feel like better or more confident, or at least give myself the feeling of having overcome these problems, or how can I, which combinations would be perfect, what things can I take regularly without them diminishing, without the effects diminishing, or what can I get away with, like what can I tried to figure out, at a certain point I tried to kind of figure out a lifestyle where I was like kind of never sober. So obviously weed was like often the baseline, because you can kind of just smoke weed whenever, and then there'd be a lot of things like kratom and phenibut that you can, for a while at least, you can take quite often. I mean, phenibut I think was actually, honestly, I think the worst thing I took in terms of causing permanent damage. I truly think that was the worst thing I did to myself, or it was certainly up there. It's certainly not something I would ever recommend anyone takes, but there were things like that were kind of more in between, and then there would be, the weekend stuff, the weekend substances, and the sort of like sessions and everything. And so I was kind of trying, and alcohol, I guess, as well, which is like easy to get. So I was kind of trying to create a lifestyle where I could just always be on something that would make me feel the way I wanted to feel. And that's what I mean by experimenting with my own sort of psyche, because if I say experimenting like a mad scientist, it makes it sound like I enjoyed getting like really wacky, and I didn't, to be honest. I wasn't like excited to get into some crazy unhinged mental state or anything. I was always kind of scared of that. I wanted to just feel good, so yeah, now I don't take anything, and it is weird. Like, one problem I think with being sober is it's quite hard to relax when you finish a day of work, because weed and alcohol for a lot of people symbolize the end of the working day, or at least some people don't work, but the end of the period when you're, it marks from going from feeling uptight about everything to kind of leisure time. And it doesn't always work that way, particularly weed. I mean, weed, I think, can often make you a lot less relaxed, but it's what it symbolizes. It symbolizes going from one state to the other. And I've been noticing increasingly recently that without drugs, I'm quite good in my day-to-day. Like, everything's quite good, but only in the sort of day-to-day. And then I don't enjoy, a lot of the time it's very hard for me to enjoy things, like I often think when I'm working, I'll be out like doing something, or I'll be, working hard on something, and I think, I'm exhausting myself here, so tonight, put something on the TV, and I'll just fucking lay back on the sofa and relax. And then that time comes around, and I'm on the sofa watching TV or whatever, and I'm like, why am I not relaxed? I feel bad, I don't know, I feel like I need to do something. I feel like I just want to, like, just lie down and relax and kind of, like, as people say, switch off or whatever. And I just can't get myself to do it. And I just feel like tense and like it's like pressure, and or I feel sometimes I think extremely bored as well, and I just don't enjoy what I'm doing. I kind of almost enjoy the day more than, you know, sort of leisure time. And I don't think that's like a hugely big deal. I think it's very normal for people to, I've spoken to a lot of people who have that problem where they sort of, as they get older, they forget how to relax, you know, and how to enjoy leisure time. Because when I was younger, it was all I did. It's like, and that then it becomes the opposite, you know, and you sort of, the idea of working on anything feels alien. But I think it's a common problem, and it's not exactly the end of the world. But I wanted to change it, and also I have become worried about the consequences of the sort of trauma that I carry, because I feel my life is improving a lot, and I feel mostly like positive about the future. But then I think, man, I feel like I've taken a hammering. My nervous system has taken a hammering, and I worry that when I'm not that much older than I am now, things will be going well, and then I'll find out I'm very ill or something, you know, because it's really bad for you, like stress and trauma, like physical stress as a, you know, byproduct of trauma and stuff, and just stress in general is very bad for you, like it's terrible for your physical health, and it's a huge predictor of you know, early death and disease. And the problem is that you can go from such extreme levels of stress, which I was at the upper end of that for a very, very long time. I think to have gone to a higher level, I would have to have been in an environment of constant existential threat, you know, like war or a really bad prison situation or something, like where every day you're on edge thinking, am I going to literally die in a horrific way today? I don't think it was as bad as that, but the consistency and the extent of the stress I went through, particularly like throughout my 20s, was abnormal, was definitely abnormal. And that worries me, basically. It worries me sometimes. And the thing is that when it's so heightened and then it kind of improves, sometimes I think like, oh, I feel better now. And then I think, well, I don't feel that relaxed, you know, I still feel quite like bad a lot of the time, really. It's just that my bar has been so lowered or so raised or whichever, you know, my standards are warped because of how intense things were before. So now just being a sort of consistent low background hum of like kind of like bad feeling, you know, like in my body, and that is sometimes I don't notice it. I just think that's just fine, you know, and then I tune into it and I think, no, it's not really fine. That's not normal. Or maybe it's normal. I think it kind of is in some ways normal, you know, to be quite stressed a lot and like clenching all the time and like feeling all this, you know, feeling constantly like something's wrong or something bad's going to happen and not feeling sort of safe. but it's not good. It's irrelevant whether or not it's normal. It's not good, and it can be changed. So anyway, yeah, now I got into vaping CBD, and I wouldn't say it's been the most life-changing thing ever, but it's quite enjoyable. It's a kind of, I do this for about, well, if I had a proper lighter, I would do it for about 12 seconds, but I don't. Well, I did, but it runs out so quickly. Yeah, can't really see anything. You can sort of taste it, but it produces very mixed results, this process. Probably can't even see it on there, but I don't think whether or not it actually produces clouds is really like necessarily correlates with whether or not it's like working. You know, I think you can actually be getting a good hit of it and nothing comes out, but obviously you generally want that, you know, that visual sort of association. So I tend to prefer when it does produce like big clouds, but it's quite strange. It's quite sort of elusive. Like you can't get it right every time, and there's different factors and how long you burn it for, how tightly you pack it, and all sorts of things. It's working well now. I'm not sure it's showing up on there, but it's producing nice clouds of vapor, and it's not too harsh. It's obviously a lot healthier for your lungs than smoking, and I personally feel one of the reasons I chose this one in particular is because it's just metal, ceramic, and it does have a couple of O-rings, but they don't really get hot, because a lot of the electronic vapes, they have loads of plastic components inside and weird linings and stuff, and like I don't want to, you know, breathe in plastic like 30 times a day, like heated plastic, heat safe plastic, which I think is bollocks. But this is like just metal. The Dynavape is similar. It does have a silicone mouthpiece, but yeah. So it's pretty good from that point of view, and you get quite a few out of it. And sometimes you feel like you've burned it, and then I save all of it up in here, the stuff I've already vaped, and then you can put that in like oil, in like coconut oil or something, and eat the rest of it, you know. And it's legal to buy this stuff in most countries because it has THC content below 0.2%. That makes it legal. So where's the bag? Do I have it there? Oh, it's over here. Hold on. It comes in this slightly infantile bag, and this was 50 grams, and I think it was about 50 quid. I think it's like £1 a gram or something. Maybe it was less even. It's not, obviously it's a hell of a lot cheaper than real weed, but it's not, you know, it's not a non-existent cost. I mean, if you do that like every month and you get through a lot of it, which recently I have been, then that would be quite expensive, you know, add something to your monthly costs. But I've been consuming probably more than I normally would, and more than a person kind of needs to lately. I guess I've been sort of hoping it's going to like really kind of compress everything, you know. And I've been feeling recently like it would be, I feel like sometimes I think like just like if I manage to just have like 1 month without 1 month of just calm, I think it would be very beneficial. I think a lot of it is like muscle memory as well, because it's not just stress, it's like anger as well. Like sometimes I get angry pretty easily, and only at stuff that's reminiscent of certain things and puts me into a state that feels like my body is remembering to feel a certain way, and that's why I feel that way. And I sometimes think like it's almost like I just need a long period, an extended period where that doesn't happen, and then I can kind of from there, like I can kind of reset, you know. And I wouldn't say I've achieved that recently in smoking like 2 grams of CBD a day. But yeah, it's definitely been good in some ways, I think. I would say like, I've noticed an effect. And I think, to be honest, when you're dealing with stuff like this, I think anything that helps even a bit is good. Like, you don't have to expect, or it's not, I don't think it's right to expect too much, because, I don't know, I mean, I think even if something helps you, 10%, that's quite a big deal. That's quite important. And I don't know. I mean, it depends on the day, because there are some days when I feel pretty sort of subdued from it, to be honest. I feel now, for example, I feel kind of a bit slow, and I think that's just because I've been working a lot. I'm really tired today. I haven't really been sleeping that well, but I feel kind of slow, and in a way that sometimes reminds me of being stoned, But I also think sometimes maybe it's just from being lightheaded, like, because I'm just like puffing on it, so much that I get kind of lightheaded from lack of oxygen, which can feel quite relaxing. But no, I feel it does something, and I like it. I feel quite sort of compelled to keep doing it. I'm gonna check the battery on my phone. Yeah, so I've been having a lot of them, and yeah, that's all really. Yeah. That's why. But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have a thing to do, and I like the taste and smell and the process and everything. It's quite good. I still feel almost like I'd like more in one go, because this part of me is like, what happens if I just have like an insane amount of CBD? But I think part of me thinks, to be honest, because it's got very low THC content, but I think if I have enough, it won't be like being stoned in a way that, because for me it was like generally quite a negative thing, being stoned, but might just give me a bit of something, just be a bit like, maybe make my mind a bit more, my thoughts a bit more interesting, get a bit of, sort of creative inspiration going, because I do miss that about weed. Like, I used to have really interesting thoughts all the time, and I think it's a combination of I don't smoke weed anymore, and also like my sort of phone and internet addiction is just out of hand. It's crazy. Like, I find it increasingly hard to sit without my phone, to not look at it and check things, and it's really stupid. So I think that maybe this is I've forgotten what I was saying. That's why. That's another reason. It's not smoking weed, because I did notice, like, before, when I stopped smoking weed like a few years ago, I lost interest in a lot of things that I liked, like I did kind of lose interest in making music, and I actually think my output became like better, but it's hard to describe. I wasn't like compelled to do it, and I didn't have the same feeling of inspiration. I wasn't drawn to it, and I certainly like really didn't enjoy like after quitting, I stopped enjoying like mixing. So I never liked mixing really anyway, but sometimes when I was stoned, I used to kind of get into it and enjoy the sound aspect, or just like making loops and listening to them. And I don't really even like listening to music now, to be honest. I kind of have like very little interest in it in some ways. I think some of that is I'm like quite sort of bitter about how it went for me, and that things didn't go the way I wanted them to with my own music, and it's given me a lot of negative feelings around music, around making it, listening to it, other people's music. I think that's a big factor. I avoided that for years, for a really, really long time. Like I don't think it's really in my nature to be like that, because I was always a huge fan and always had so much like admiration and respect for other people. But to be honest, one of the things that happens is you get to know some people who you look up to or whatever, and sometimes they're not very likable people, and they're kind of like disappointing, or they do things that disappoint you, or their careers follow a disappointing trajectory, or they do, or you find out they've done some weird stuff, or you have very different. For me in particular, to be honest, my views, my like political views, are in extremely sharp contrast with everyone in music, basically, with probably 90% of people in music or more. And that, again, was something I always kind of ignored. Like, I don't care, I like certain music, and I don't really care that they have weird views that I don't agree with. Like, I like this person, I like their music. But over time, it became harder. It became harder to accept that and ignore it. And it became harder to accept and ignore the feelings of... I think as I began quite recently to sort of accept, like, things might not go the way I want them to, and I'm not going to force it, because I'm destroying myself, basically, by trying to. I had to like let go a little bit, and that took me from already being a bit like demotivated and disinterested to like kind of tipped it over the edge into where I was like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I'm not particularly excited to listen to new stuff. I don't really care, and a lot of it annoys me, and I feel sometimes like they don't like me, like even if it's someone I've never met, I don't know, like I feel like the culture that is predominant in music is kind of hostile towards like who and what I am, and I felt that in reality, and I've also picked up on it, and like through like the media and stuff, and so it went from being something I used to ignore and thinking that's okay, I'm different to these people, but there's nothing wrong with that, I can be different to these people, and once people see who I am and what I'm about and what I can do, it won't matter, I'll accept their differences and they'll accept mine. But that didn't really turn out to be the case. And I became kind of increasingly, I just felt, well, then fine, if our differences can't be resolved or accepted, then I won't accept yours either, so I just kind of it took a long time, I would say, to get to this point. It took a very long time to become like sort of bitter and jaded. But I think that is partially what's happened, to be honest. I think so much of it has just become like whatever, basically. Okay, the same types of disappointment over and over again. And yeah, I mean, when you get to know other people, there's some people, for example, who I really like, was always sort of admired and looked up to in music. And when you get to know them, it's not just that you might not like them or whatever, but also you see that they feel kind of the same way that you do. And everyone, no matter where they are, they kind of feel like they've been shafted or hard done by or overlooked, unless they're at the very top. They're like, you know, like Taylor Swift or something, and they probably just feel like they have no privacy and their life is crazy, and they feel weird for other reasons, and then they're completely isolated, and it's, you know, a mental existence. Everyone below that feels probably like they deserve to be a bit higher than they are. A lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people, like a surprising amount of people, you know, where you would look at them and think, wow, this person's had it all. And that was another thing, is I started to look at people who I really admired in music, and look at, you know, when I looked at how their lives turned out, like a lot of the time it was quite sad, to be honest. Like, some people, you know, they had all the things I wanted, or I thought I wanted when I was younger, like money and critical acclaim, and, you know, their work meant something, and they could, you know, have drugs whenever they wanted, and they were an artist, and they live in this lifestyle, and, you know, girls and whatever. And then I see, like, how that's gone for them, and it's like horrible for so many of these people. It's turned out horribly. Like, they've ended up just alone, you know, or like constantly cheating on their partners, or they're like, yeah, they don't have a family, and they're like, you know, in their 40s, and it's just weird. Or they're accused of like sex crimes and stuff. It's just like, it just feels like that is like a very hollow, an empty dream in a lot of ways. The part that is good, obviously, is your work having meaning, but it doesn't seem to do that much for some of these people, to be honest. Like, it doesn't seem to do much for them, like, mentally. Sorry about the noise, I don't know what they're doing, sliding chairs around. It doesn't seem to, you know, doesn't tuck them into bed at night. Not that grown-ups need tucking into bed at night, but you know what I mean. Woo. It doesn't keep them warm at night. So that also, I never wanted. Well, maybe I'm deceiving myself a bit, but I didn't really want I didn't wholly want on a personal level to be famous. Like, I would prefer to, I like being a normal person and walking around town and having privacy and whatever. But I wanted my work to be famous. I wanted as many people as possible to hear what I was doing, and for it to matter, and to like inspire other people and everything. And that part seems still, you know, great. Like, to know that what you're doing is contributed something to the world. But all of the rest of it sounds like a nightmare to me. So I think that also added to me feeling a bit like disinterested in a lot of it. But then also, yeah, not smoking weed, I think, was a big factor. As much as I don't like to admit that. And yet at the same time, my workflow became so much more efficient, and I think I also was just more like direct and straightforward, and quality control was better and everything, like after I stopped smoking weed. I think it's almost like it was better, but I just didn't have the feeling as much. But I don't know. To be honest, it's like a whole mess to sort of untangle that I haven't really done yet. I'm just sort of moving on to a different phase of my life, which feels weird. I feel a bit sometimes like I'm having the thing died. I ran out of space on my phone. I don't know where the video ended, but I was talking about. I was saying it's not a midlife crisis. I don't know what it is, like a third life crisis. I think that's more of a thing than a midlife crisis. I mean, midlife crisis, I get the idea behind it, but I feel it's a bit like out of order, you know, like, God forbid, you know, someone wants to have some fun when they're like 50 and they're like, oh, look at him, he's bought a sports car, how sad. He's like sports cars, doesn't he, really? Doesn't want to spend the fucking rest of his life doing what other people tell him, you know. But yeah, I feel it's more common to have like a kind of third life crisis, you know, when you sort of like in your 30s, because a lot of people, particularly now, a lot of people don't think about having a family or what they're going to do when they're older, because they're just like, oh, I'm, you know, travelling, I'm going out drinking, I'm doing this and that, doing whatever young people stuff it is that you're doing. And then you sort of start to realise, cool, I'm going to be fucking sad if I keep doing all of this, you know, if I don't change this and do something with myself, I'm going to be an absolute sad case when I'm like 50. So, for me, I felt that way a bit. I'm sort of like, you know, changing my life in various ways, and it's funny, like I feel that it's good, you know, I like it. I kind of, sometimes it's just the novelty. I think the novelty of doing different things, but also like I do like it. I like living a normal life, you know, and like where I live, I feel quite accepted by the community, and I sort of like talk to people quite a lot, and I feel like a normal person. I don't know how to describe it, but I feel like a normal person in a way that I never did, and I feel more like an adult, but I also feel that I've lost something a bit fundamental to me, you know, like, and that I've abandoned the things I was passionate about. And, you know, when you're that age, when you're young, I feel like you almost subconsciously look ahead at your future self, and you kind of say to it almost like, please don't, you know, please don't forget all of this stuff, please don't abandon all of these dreams and everything, and please don't ever stop being like this, you know, don't sort of lose that fire. And you kind of ask for it and you expect it, and you do so in good faith that your older self will honour that request. And it just doesn't seem to happen much for people. You just inevitably kind of change. You start to care about different things. You kind of have to care about different things. But there's a part of me that feels it's wrong. I feel it's wrong. Like, I feel I'm doing what's easy and convenient for me, rather than what I believe in. But I don't know. There are other factors as well. Like, I've known for a while that my girlfriend, I mean, she's basically my wife now, we haven't done the paperwork because it's such a pain in the ass, but essentially, you know, married. I started to feel, because she comes from a fairly bad background, and I kind of knew, like, if we carry on like this, she's not going to be happy. She's not going to be happy with the future that we're headed for, and she doesn't really have the same sort of foresight and the same grip on life and the future and on, you know, I'm quite aware of what's going on around me and what's happening and what's going to happen or what might happen. And I think about it a lot, you know, and not everyone does, basically. And I was getting the feeling like if we carry on this like sort of drifter, creative, substance abuse lifestyle, it's going to be like pretty horrific for her. For me, it would be like, okay, I'd always have like my sort of artistic pursuits and stuff, and I could just go fully into just doing all of that. And like if I was alone, I would have just gone to a big city, you know, like just tried to do it there. But I know that that's not her thing. That's my thing, you know, and I know the kind of person she is, and so I knew that continuing with all that would be bad, and that we're not that young. We don't have that much time to like prepare for all of this stuff, you know. And so we started, you know, properly preparing to like have a family and everything. Because I think for me, yeah, I would feel I missed out if I didn't, and it would be strange not to. But for her, I think it'd be more of a, you know, an even bigger hole in her life, because I have a lot of other things I can fill that hole with. But I don't think she does. And now that we're focused on that, like I can see she's like very different, you know, and very like drawn to it, you know. And I'm glad. But it does mean changing how I look at life and changing how I live my life and everything. And it's a weird transition. It's mostly good, but I wish sometimes I could just be one or the other, you know, because there's a lot of internal conflict it creates. And it's hard to settle into one mode or the other. But these are, you know, trivial problems in the grand scheme of things. But I feel this video I'm complaining a lot about life. There's quite a negative tone, but in general, like things are actually really good, I would say, in so many ways. I don't know how much of that's being picked up on the recording. Might be time for me to wrap up the video soon. I'm thinking of my girlfriend left a packet of Parmesan out overnight. And I was like, oh, well, looks like I'm going to have to eat the whole packet of Parmesan today. Do you know, by the way, sorry about the noise, you know, if you work out, like there's protein bars that are really expensive and they're fucking shit and they're full of weird stuff and they're just crap. If you buy a Parmesan, like a wedge of Parmesan, it has basically the same macros, and obviously it's a lot healthier. I fucking hate people who whistle. It has the same macros and it's much healthier and more natural than all the freaky ingredients in it. That's got the dog revved up. Oh my god, it's so annoying, shut the fuck up. And yeah, so you just buy Parmesan. It depends where you live. Oh my god, fucking shut up. Yeah, it you know, it can be a very good protein bar substitute if you don't like eating stuff like that. But anyway, I was like, oh, I'm going to just have to eat all the Parmesan today, make some sort of Parmesan pasta dish. And then she looked it up and was like, no, it's fine. I knew it was fine anyway. Of course, you can leave Parmesan out overnight. But I think I'm still just going to eat the whole Parmesan today, just because I kind of set my mind on it. Or me and the dog are going to go down to the chicken shop where they sell whole chickens, and maybe get a whole chicken, which she would like. I'm not particularly keen on the pre-roasted there's a lot of these places here, they're very popular, where they're only open in the daytime on like a Sunday, and they sell whole chickens, and people queue up around the block to get these chickens. I don't know why, you just bung a chicken in the oven, you know, and like, it's pretty easy and usually tastes better, but people are obsessed with these chicken places. It's not like, you know, it's not like fried chicken, it's literally just a whole roasted chicken. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's never particularly exciting, but the dog fucking loves it. Like, she goes nuts. She's absolutely psychotic for these chickens. Literally, she's not normally like that, but she'll literally like whimper and cry for a piece of it. It's crazy. The smell of a whole chicken just drives her nuts. So yeah, probably do that. Maybe get some of those. Maybe do a nice. I could get the chicken. No, that's not what a chicken parmesan is it? A chicken parmesan is just a chicken breast with sauce and parmesan. But I might do something similar to that, but with pasta and with some of the roast chicken, some sauce, a heavy coating of parmesan on top. I might do that. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, yeah, all right, chaps. That was all. I recommend one of these if you're destroying your lungs with smoking. These are pretty good. I might use I have a kind of AI thing that like filters out noise from videos. And I might use it to get rid of that whistling. So you might be wondering, what the fuck was he talking about like a minute ago when he kept reacting to something there was no noise? Someone was whistling very loudly, but I might have like filtered it out, so you might not even really hear it. Because I feel like, you know, you might want to, some people have commented before saying they sleep to some of these videos, and it'd be fucking annoying if you were just about falling asleep and then right at the end of the video you hear all that whistling and it wakes you up. Like I don't do it at night when I go to bed at night, but when I have naps in the day, I listen to videos to make me fall asleep quicker. Like ASMR videos and stuff. I don't like the weird shit. I just like where someone's just talking quietly, you know, like, and I just listen to them in Spanish sometimes and stuff because it's useful for me, you know, to practice. But I fucking hate when they make all these noises. It annoys me so much. Like, I'll be falling asleep and then they get like a book and they're like turn the pages right next to the mic, but their mouth is over here and the book is like here. I fucking hate it. It drives me mad. It's so hard to find videos where they're not doing all these weird noises and they're like tapping things and they're like, ooh, and like tapping all the objects and stuff. It's so annoying, man. It drives me nuts. Like back in the day, I was there in the early days when it wasn't even called ASMR, because it's a physical sensation that happens that. There's a whole. I was planning on wrapping this video up. It was a whole long thing to get into, but basically it was like a small community of people online who were like, "Why do I get this intense, like endorphin rush? This like really nice, relaxing sensation when people whisper? It's not just like, oh, I like the sound. It is honestly like when I was. I have like a tolerance to it now, but when I was younger, like if someone was like whispering, or if I saw a video where someone was quietly explaining something or something like that. Honestly, I would go into like a trance, like my eyes would be rolling back into my head from it. Sometimes I swear to God, it was that extreme. And a lot of people had this, where like you'd like pass out from it, and it was so nice, like so addictive. And back then there was no such thing as ASMR videos, and the phrase ASMR didn't even exist. But people would be like, "What's this strange feeling I get when someone like whispers?" You know. And then there were whisper videos. Originally, there were whisper videos. And they weren't called ASMR, and it was all just videos of people. There was usually no video, it was just images and then the audio of them whispering, and that was a really popular genre. There were different accounts that were like famous then. There was like Danish Whispers, I remember. There was a Danish girl, I think Victoria's Whispers or something, and it was like a lot smaller. And now you see these called like ASMR, and we've got these huge channels. A lot of the time I think it's just like quite like sexual content, you know. Or it's just weird. I don't understand what it is now. And because they say, oh, this will give you like a tingly head sensation, and because they're like doing weird shit in your ears, and there's all this weird like binaural stuff going on. But that's not what it is. It's meant to be originally it was like a state of relaxation, whereas I think now people are just like, ooh, it feels funny in my ears or whatever. I don't know what's going on with it, but to me it's fucking weird. I feel the whole sort of ASMR game kind of changed. I don't really like the way it is now, but there's a lot of people who still do stuff where it's just listening to someone quietly speaking, basically. I tried to find ones where I'm like learning something at the same time, so I just only use it for naps, and it makes me fall asleep so fast. Like I can fall asleep in like 10 minutes just listening to someone like speaking quietly in Spanish or something, or talking about, I don't know, some like historical thing or something like that. But yeah, it drives me nuts. And sometimes there's a couple of them where they do these really good videos, and then at the end they put music. It's like, what is this, a fucking episode of Cheers or something? Like, I'm trying to sleep here and you're waking me up. It's like a prank, you know? It's like, oh, I'm so tired and relaxed. And then they put their fucking shitty theme music at the end, or they just do something really loud. And I'm amazed people like it. Or I don't know if they even do. I don't know what it is. I feel it's just become the thing to do. Because when someone does a video where they're just speaking and there's not all this noise, people always comment and they're like, I really like this. But then they're always like tapping objects and brushing the fucking microphone and shit. Fuck all of that. So, yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, I may do more of these kind of videos if people like them. Or if not, it'll just be this one. But yeah, thanks for watching and take care.